When Coop first met me, he was like, man, I'm envious of your biceps. And I was like, dude, I'm envious of your mustache.
Thank you.
So if you haven't seen Coop before, he's got an awesome channel called Garage Gym Reviews, probably the most prolific gym equipment review channel that's out there in the interwebs. So today, he's gonna break down for me like the 10 most unique pieces of equipment that you didn't know you needed. So Coop, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's dive in. You've got to check out Thrive Market, seriously. Like if you are trying to just make better choices and you're trying to also save some money, you've got to check them out. So what it is it's an online grocery store, but everything that they have there are products that they have vetted in terms of being better for you options. So it's not like going to your regular like Piggly Wiggly grocery store and finding whatever junk is in the aisles. It's really finding things that are good options for you, but then it gets delivered to your doorstep in a day or two. It's super easy, super convenient. But that link down below, since they're a sponsor on this channel, saves you 25% off your entire grocery order. That's 25% off your entire order plus a free gift, and then it gets delivered to your doorstep. So you save money there, plus you save money not having to go to the grocery store, plus you save your time not having to walk around the grocery store, plus you save your time not having to talk to Rick, your weird neighbor that you ran into at the grocery store. So that link is down below. Check them out after this video.
Okay, so I review gym equipment and I review them specifically for home gym owners oftentimes. Now, this list is for some people that have home gyms, some people that don't. Thomas, do your viewers have home gyms? What do you think?
I think it's a good mix of both, right? I think it's people that are really, a lot of times, on a time crunch, right? So whether they're going to the typical global gym kind of thing or they're working at home, they want to get the most effective workouts in the least amount of time. And that's what I'm all about, is just efficiency, efficiency, efficiency.
Sure, so these 10 items, these are not the things that I think are like the foundation of your garage gym. If you're looking for that, we have different content on that, but these are like 10 unique items that I think people could add either to their home gym, or some of these are ones that I specifically travel with every time I travel, or ones that you can throw in your gym bag and take to the gym. So the first one, it's called monkey feet. They sound kind of unique, and they are unique. The idea behind them is really, like most fitness equipment, is nothing's new under the sun. This is something that was done a long time ago, and it's basically like an iron boot. So the original iron boot was something you attached to your feet and allowed you to weight your feet. Like we don't have fingers on our feet, so we can't grab dumbbells and kettlebells. So a way to add resistance to your feet in a small package was with an iron boot. Well, a company came out and they used basically a inline skate as the inspiration, and it's a boot that you put on your foot that you can then attach dumbbells to. And really the big benefit to it is in a home gym specifically, you don't have space for a leg extension, a leg curl, or some of those other items. Well, this allows you to basically attach a dumbbell of various ranges in size and then do leg extensions, standing leg curls, lying leg curls. But I've also found like a lot of benefit from doing hip flexor work. So I'll stand on, say, a step-up box, and I'll just put my leg all the way down and come up. Or I'll hang from a pull-up bar and then do alternating. They are difficult, and you can load them in whatever weight you want to. Most home gym owners or most gyms you're traveling to will already have dumbbells, so they attach to those, and they're also really cheap. So I think it's an item that a lot of people don't think of, but could be beneficial.
I guess you could also use it for ab work too. It's like you could hang from a bar, put them on your feet. It's like usually I'm like trying to finagle my foot into the horn of a kettlebell and like trying to do 8 weighted ab raises and things like that, which is like brutal because then I'm getting more of a like tibialis workout than I have an ab workout.
Yeah, no, I've done it the same way. You could also use it if you wanted to do weighted pull-ups or weighted dips. Idea. It's just another way to weight without it basically coming from a different place than, say, a dip belt. And I've done it for ab work too. And one way I've done it before is like attaching chains to my legs. It adds accommodating resistance, but I actually prefer monkey feet. It feels great.
Like posterior chain blast, you could like do pull-ups and then immediately jump down and do hamstring curls.
Oh, totally.
Like, so just like frying your posterior chain.
Without a doubt, yeah.
That's awesome.
And they look like, I mean, some of these items are kind of goofy in the way they look, but I'm telling you, like you do some standing ham raises with them, like your hams will be on fire.
Nice.
Like the posterior chain's great, yeah.
Okay, this next one is one that I happen to have here, and like Coop knows a ton about this one. And this is a Kbox. It is designed to really help you get like more eccentric load, right?
Totally, yeah. So it uses flywheel as the resistance instead of, think a cable stack or a free weight. all the resistance comes from this little disc right here. And don't think little as in it won't be difficult. Like, this thing can get very hard. The idea is that the more mass that is here, so that mass can come in either width or length, the diameter can increase, that increases the speed at which it wants to pull you down. So the idea is the farther or the harder and faster you pull away from the machine, the harder it wants to pull you down. So the way that you're able to basically increase the eccentric load is you go harder on the way up, which then it goes harder on the way down. This cannot be mimicked by any free weight, because if you think about it, like, all right, you're doing a barbell movement, it's gonna be, let's say you put 45s on each side, it's 135 on the way down, on the way up, it's the same. Now you can add accommodating resistance with like resistance bands or chains, but it's just not the same as using this. You can use this machine, like there are people that this is like their main way of training. Like me personally, this is more for like an accessory movement. I'm training squats, I'm training deadlifts, I'm also doing a lot of upper body movements with it. But for somebody that just wants a machine that can do a lot of things, this is one of them. Now, smart home gyms, there's a lot of smart home gyms out there that can do some of the eccentric things that this can do. But man, if you're looking for like any sort of like quad pump or bicep, like this is like my preferred way of doing arms. I do arms on this all the time. Yeah.
From a leg perspective too, like for sort of almost overspeed training and being able to protect yourself. So it's very good for preventing injury. Now, granted, the first time I hopped on this, I inflicted injury because I wasn't expecting it to be so intense, right? Because again, that little flywheel doesn't look like much. But like when you're doing a lot of training where you're trying to control, like sprinting is a great example. Like how many times have you been sprinting and at the end of a sprint, it actually hurts when you have to put on the brakes and stop. Like you're sprinting and then stop, stop, stop. Well, that's because you're putting a lot of eccentric load on the quads. And that's where injuries happen a lot. They really do happen when people are overloading. So this is a way to overload in a controlled fashion. So you use caution, just start slow, start light, because you're probably not used to overloading in the eccentric like that.
Yeah, totally. The creator of this, his name's Frederick. He was actually a hockey player, and he developed it because hockey is like you're on the ice. Once you get over the boards, like it's a sprint. Yeah. It's not a long distance, it's like a sprint. So a lot of people within those sports, they're using these. But one thing I really like about it is just how small space it takes up. Yeah. So in home gyms, like people aren't dealing with a big space, like having something that you can use in a lot of different ways, very versatile. It allows you to do that in a very small space.
And this happens to be the big one. They even make them smaller.
Oh, so, totally, yeah.
This next one's all about like how weird can you possibly look? Because I think that counts for something. So what's the weirdest thing you could possibly wear in a gym to make you look crazy and cool, but it's also effective?
Yeah, this is actually the device I was wearing when I met my wife. So it ended up working out great. No, I'm just kidding. This is called the Iron Neck. If you want to look like Raiden from, what's Raiden from? Street Fighter? Mortal Kombat, gosh dang it. If you want to look like Raiden from Mortal Kombat, this will make you look like that. It's called the Iron Neck. And the Iron Neck is one of the goofiest things I've ever seen. The first time I saw it was on Joe Rogan, and he was like, you know, he was all about it, absolutely loved it. So I had some interest in it there, and they sent us one to review. I hadn't done a lot of neck training. It wasn't something I do a lot of. I actually noticed you have a neck harness over there, so you may do neck training somewhat. The reason I really started doing neck training is because I do jujitsu now. So I'm rolling every day in the morning, and the neck is like a really important part because people are trying to take their neck off. I'm also constantly with people and basically putting my neck against them. Sorry, don't come at me. But basically I need a strong neck. And so the Iron Neck goes on, allows you to attach to a band or some sort of cable resistance. And then basically you're resisting it and able to go side to side. So it's on some sort of track and you can adjust the dial on the track. It looks goofy. And honestly, I think the higher end version is overpriced. I would suggest the lower end version. I think you can get everything you want to get from it, but this will humble you. The first time I used it, like the company was like, just do like, 20 reps, like 3 sets. So I did it and I was like, that wasn't a big deal. I woke up the next morning, my neck was sore. And I don't know how often, I mean, you train a lot. I've never really had a sore neck. I've had sore traps, but never from like normal training did I have a sore neck. This was like the first time, and I've noticed a marked improvement in both the flexibility of my neck, the lack of soreness in my neck, and also the strength of my neck whenever I'm like doing jujitsu.
Dang, okay. That's something, I mean, and I'd imagine, if you want that want to look like Jocko Willink, or you want to like have that big neck look, it's kind of a cool thing too.
Totally. And that guy you mentioned, Jocko Willink, he loves the thing. He talks about it all the time. So
it's great because I only film from like here up. So like I was thinking of not training anything from like nipple down.
Perfect, dude. Chest press,
and just having a big
traps.
Yeah. That's all I need. I mean, okay, so let's see. What's next here on the list?
Okay, this next one is more lower body. So this is something I actually got from a guy that you know, Ben Patrick from Knees Over Toes guy. This was a part of my body I was never training, but it's called the Tib Bar. It's a very simple device. When you think of lower body training, outside of like squats, deadlifts, you know, posterior chain, anterior chain type training, the calves are really what you think of lower body. But there's also a muscle on the front of your shin that can be very, very beneficial for training. Like, it's funny, we neglect certain muscles just because we're not used to them, or it's not like a showy, sexy muscle. Like calves, if you're wearing shorts, like people like big calves, but nobody really walks around and goes, man, that dude's tib is incredibly large, right? It's so vascular. I've never heard that, but this is a muscle that you're using anytime you're doing stopping, anytime you're walking backwards. Like, it's just a very beneficial muscle that's in your body, like all your muscles. And so training it, I think, is important. So the Tib Bar basically sits on your toes and allows you to raise, think of the opposite of a calf raise. So it's loading in such a way where you lay down, it's very cheap, it allows you to do weight plates, and you just do a bunch of reps. I've noticed, again, a marked improvement in my training just from using this, because really, I never trained that muscle.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Ben Patrick and Knees Over Toes, like I had him on my channel just a couple of weeks ago at the time of filming this, and he's huge on the sled. But we used like the big version of what is called the tank sled when we were back at my studio. But here we are in this gym, and we've got the Tank M1, which is one of my favorite pieces of equipment.
Sure. The normal tank I also have. I'm a big fan of it. It's what I have in my garage gym, but I also have this one. I think this one is really more practical for most people. The reason being, like you can tell, just the space and the weight. That big tank is heavy. There's no way to store it on a wall. This actually has a wall mount available. What makes these unique versus a normal sled is that they use magnetic resistance. So most sleds, for the resistance, they're just using friction. So they're using the friction of the metal against the concrete, and then you're throwing weights on top to just increase the friction. Number one, they're really loud. So if you want to like really have your neighbors hate you, like use a normal sled. But if you want your neighbors to like you, or you live in an HOA where that's not even possible, then this is really your only option if you want to use a sled. The other thing is just getting it out there, using the weight, put it on there. The only reason you put weight on this is really so you can keep the wheels down. The resistance all comes from this magnetic resistance on the front, and it's just very simple to adjust. So there's a lever here that goes from neutral all the way to 3. Various options. It's just very easy to use, very lightweight, very easy to turn around. This is the modern version of a sled. If you want to do any sort of sled walks forward, any sled walks backwards, any type of HIIT workout, like you put me through a workout today and we used this one, it absolutely sucked, but then I was happy afterwards because I was so fit afterwards because I used this. But I know you love them, I love them. If you're gonna use a sled, really this is the way to go.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is like start on a heavy resistance, drop the resistance down as you go. So way easier on the fly is do sort of sled push drop sets. So rather than say, like being in a situation where you gotta pull plates off as you go and it's like super cumbersome, this makes it very easy to just on the fly, just keep on rocking and rolling.
Sweet. I never even thought of that. I need to try that.
It's because it's hard.
Yeah, yeah, for real.
All right, this next one is one of my favorites and it's super simple. Jump rope. Now, what should people be looking for when they're looking for a jump rope?
Okay, there's a lot of different types of jump ropes, and the ones that I think are most popular today are actually ones I wouldn't recommend for most people, and that's the speed rope. It's like the bare steel, thin cable. Really the idea behind it and the reason they were popularized is because of double unders in CrossFit. But most people don't need to be doing double unders. Like double unders are a great exercise. I do double unders all the time, but a jump rope isn't just about intensity. You can also use it for longer, steady state duration stuff. And I think a thicker cable allows you to just have better feel. So learning the double under is a skill. Do you need to learn a double under? I don't think so. I think you can just get as good conditioning using a single under.
I'm gonna pause you and explain why these are chipped up.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
That is from the process of learning double unders.
Sure.
And getting pissed off and throwing it multiple times.
Yeah.
So it is beat up because double unders suck.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they're not easy to learn. I remember the first time I went to a CrossFit class and they had double unders on the menu, and I was like, I can do everything on this. And I was trying the entire class to do double unders. So I don't think you have to do that. In fact, the majority of the time that I'm doing jump ropes, I'm just doing single unders, or I'm doing like single leg steps.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the best conditioned people in the world, you think of boxers. Boxers have to go 10 plus rounds, and they have to try and kill somebody or try and knock somebody out and try to not be knocked out. You need really good conditioning. You can't allow your conditioning to prevent you from being able to do that sport. Dude, I think you could get extremely well conditioned using a simple tool like this. You don't have to have machines. Like I love the conditioning machines. I love Stairmasters. I love that kind of stuff. But for most people, don't allow the piece of equipment or the money you have to prevent you from getting more fit. And I think, dude, the simple jump rope, every time I travel, I'm taking one. I use it every week. I think this is a very underutilized tool, and it's also just a very cheap tool. So I really recommend it.
Okay, so what's next on the menu here?
Okay, this next one, I've got a couple bars. Okay, I love specialty bars. I love barbells. In fact, when I was going through your gym, that's one thing I was gonna recommend is you need more specialty bars. I just love specialty bars. It can provide a different stimulus, but the other thing is like, I'm constantly trying to just help the monkey brain stay focused.
Yeah.
And so changing the variation on my training is helpful. So if I'm squatting, yeah, I'll use a straight bar, but it's also fun to just throw in a safety squat bar or an earthquake bar. And so that's one bar I want to talk about. It's an earthquake bar. An earthquake bar uses resistance bands, and both of these next ones use resistance bands. The way the earthquake bar uses resistance bands though, is it basically attaches kettlebells on resistance bands to the end of the bar. And they call it an earthquake bar because it basically like shakes like crazy. Another name for it is a bamboo bar. And the reason that I like the bamboo bar is it basically provides instability to the lift you're doing, which then forces you to really control your movement. A lot of people don't think about the tempo. So when we were training specifically, you're like, hey, for this next set, make sure you're going 2 seconds down, 2 seconds up, because you're thinking about the tempo. A lot of people aren't. And I think the earthquake bar forces you to think about tempo because it's constantly shaking. So if you're on bench, man, like it can just get absolutely crazy if you go fast. But if you slow down, I think that can then transfer over to using a regular bar. Have you used an earthquake bar?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, they're weird.
They're
That's the best way to describe it. Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, especially when you're doing any kind of like upper body stuff, because that's a real weird world. Like squats, I think, you know, like as an athlete, like I've learned to be fairly stable, so it wasn't a huge adaptation. Yeah. But man, when I put that thing on bench, it was like, what the heck is going on here?
Without a doubt, yeah. It's a major change. I don't think it's like a necessary tool for a lot of people, but I think it's another fun thing to throw in. And then the other thing is called an X3 bar. X3 bar is what I travel with. So it's like my gym in a box. And it basically is a small barbell with hooks on it, very simple device that rotates, and then you attach resistance bands to it. The resistance bands go under a foot plate, and then you can do all sorts of exercises. The reason I like resistance bands for traveling for a lot of people is just because they're small.
Yeah.
Like they don't take up a lot of space, and you can get heavy. Like you get a thick resistance band. Like there is a resistance band that X3 sells that gets up to 600 pounds on a deadlift. So at the top of the range of motion, it's 600 pounds. The other thing is a lot of people are intimidated by barbells and free weight training, and resistance bands is a great way to get an extreme load without feeling intimidated or feeling like, oh, this is crazy heavy, because they start easier. So the farther you are away from the attachment point, the harder and more resistance there is. So you start the rep, say on a deadlift, and it may be that band, it's unloaded, and it may crank up to, you know, 100, 200 pounds or so. And by the top, you're at 600 pounds. And people can deadlift, I'm just using this movement specifically, people can deadlift a lot more here than they can from the floor.
Yeah.
So having that extra resistance as you come up, that accommodating resistance, I think it's just a fun way to train. I don't use it for my training all the time, but if I'm traveling or I just want to throw it in on arm day or deadlifts, I'll do it.
Nice, man. And then this next one that we want to talk about is one that I think, regardless of the gym that you have, I think it's a very, very important piece. Now, people a lot of times will play around with like TRX bands, everything's like that, but like I've really been turned on to using just the rings, like these gymnastic rings, and they intimidate people because you think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do muscle ups with them. No, like they were a game changer in my shoulder mobility, in my thoracic mobility, and just a lot of rehab that I was going through. So that's on your list, I know.
Yeah, I think the gymnastic rings are kind of equivalent to the jump rope in that they're very simple, they're very cheap, they're very small, but I think instead of being for conditioning, they're absolutely tremendous for upper body strength. So in my opinion, for my training, I use gymnastics rings every workout. So I'm doing a lot of weighted pull-ups right now. I have a goal of doing a one-arm pull-up. And so I want to do a one-arm pull-up on a gymnastics ring. It's a dynamic range. And so I'm doing lots of weighted pull-ups, lots of weighted dips, and I use the rings for that. But you don't just need to use them for that. Like you said, muscle-ups. I like to do a lot of bodyweight muscle-ups. But in addition to that, you can throw them down and use them like TRX rings.
Yeah.
So you can use them for rows. You can use them for push-ups. Basically, you can change the angle and therefore either increase or decrease the load based upon your body weight and the angle in which you are. Yeah. And man, I just think like you can attach them to anything. Like if you go out with a tree, because the gymnastic rings are adjustable, like you can adjust them so they're even. You can add them to pull-up bars, you can add them to squat racks, you name it. I think for the price, for the space, everything about them, like gymnastics rings for me are one of my favorite tools and ones that I recommend to just about everybody.
Yeah, and a hot tip for them, everyone's always kind of sitting there trying to make them perfectly level and things like that. Don't worry about it for a little bit. I mean, yes, certain things make sure they're level, but what I like to do is have them off kilter.
Cool.
And I'll do pull-ups where they're, you know, I just always balance. If I have the low side, left side down, the right side up, I'll do 2 sets like that, and then I'll go the other way.
Nice.
Just do them off kilter like that. It really makes a big difference. So speaking of pull-ups, there's one other thing that's kind of an easy attachment. Like that's it's the angle 90, right? That is a really cool attachment. I've not yet tried it, but I know you're big on it, and I've seen it floating around on the internet.
Yeah, again, this is another extra tool. I don't think these are necessary. In fact, for most people, I'd recommend rings over these, but I do like what's called Angles 90 grips. And they're essentially an orange, almost look like a upside down banana almost, and a little strap. And they allow you to basically connect to anything you want and have a very advantageous grip. So depending on where you hold it, it is either more advantageous or less. Like it can actually be disadvantageous if you use the outside edge because you just can't grip as hard. It kind of makes it slip off. But if you want like a really advantageous grip, which I mean like basically taking your grip out of it. So when I was with Marcus Philly the other day, we used wrist straps on one of the movements because he's like, I just want to take the grip out of the pull. This allows you to do that just by flipping it around. Yeah. So if you don't want grip to be the main limiting factor to any of your pulling exercises, say for pull-ups, or you can attach them to cable machines. I like to use them a lot of times for face pulls. There's just a lot of ways that you can use them. And again, you can throw these in your gym bag. You can take them to your gym. You can use them in your home gym, or you can travel with them. If you just want like a device that you can throw onto something and either do pulls, farmer's carries, pull-ups, you name it, like these can work well.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so all these things are things, well, almost all these things are things you can travel with, but at the end of the day, they're things that if you don't have a lot of space, you can get a lot of use out of. And a lot of things that are gonna give you sort of these ancillary moves and ancillary exercises that maybe you're not thinking of, or like he mentioned, we have to be able to keep this monkey brain satisfied. Like I know we've all been in the same spot where like it just gets a little boring. Like it gets stale. Like it's always fun to try something new. And it's like going out and like my wife going out and saying, I want to go get some shoes. Why do you want to get shoes? Well, because it makes me excited to dress up and do something. And maybe it's a little harder for me to understand that, but I'm that way with gym equipment. Like I get something new, I'm like, I really want to go to the gym.
Totally, yeah. I think these tools are not necessary, but these are ones, like you said, to like tame the monkey brain. They get you excited about the training. If you're feeling like a dull or lull in your training, go ahead and pick something up new. And these also train different movements or different parts of your body that maybe you're not training a lot. You know, like the neck or the tib, or with the sled, like it's a hard thing. Like we should be doing more hard things, and the more opportunity we can do that and the less friction we put in our lives to allow us to do that, and I think that's what these tools allow us to do, the better, and the better you will be in the long run.
Jump roping with monkey feet on while wearing the iron neck.
I've done it, it's awesome. No, I'm just kidding.
So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel. And Coop, where can everyone find you?
Garage Gym Reviews. So if you look on any social platform at Garage Gym Reviews, also our YouTube channel, Garage Gym Reviews, and then the main one, like if you're looking for reviews on any sort of equipment, we have 1,000+ in-depth, honest reviews on everything you can think of, from cardio machines to strength machines, GarageGymReviews.com.
Right on. See you tomorrow.